Tinubu reiterated his unwavering commitment to Nigeria's economic growth and stability, emphasizing that he is not relenting until his vision for Nigeria is achieved. This is as his administration is carrying out reforms to rejig the Nigerian economy. Some of the benefits of the reforms being spearheaded by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu includes a GDP growth of 3.46%. In the fourth quarter of 2023, as against 2.54% recorded in the third quarter of 2023, 66% rise in capital importation in the fourth quarter of 2023, reversing a 36% decline in the third quarter. Petrol importation reduction by 50% since the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy and the crossing of 100,000 mark of the Nigerian Stock Exchange all-share index mark, its high as ever, mainly due to the pragmatic reforms initiated by the president, which inspired investors' confidence in the Nigerian economy. Joining me to discuss this is Ogbonna Ukuku, investment and economic development expert. Welcome to Business Express.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, so far, how do you see the reforms in terms of performance?
Now, first of all, we have to look at the political stability, which is usually the first thing that happens because for investors or for people who want to do business in any clime, they need to they first of all look at the stability in government, and then again they begin to look at the consistency in policy and policy direction. So that will actually enable them to do their projections and then make their plans based on those projections and then those stabilities that they have seen within the ecosystem. So as soon as you begin to find that, that the automatic reflection will be investors, towing a particular line, either to invest or not to invest. So for them to decide to invest shows that there are promises being made and they can see light at the end of the tunnel. And then they also see that some people rather buy now, and then, reap the dividends later. So which speaks to the ability to take risk. And, so generally speaking, it's a good thing that you take a decision and stand by it. And then that's exactly what we're seeing now in the economy.
Okay, we've seen the economy grew by 3.46% in the third quarter of 2023. Fourth quarter of 2023. So, does this tell us about the story of this particular administration's reform?
No, it's a two-way thing, yeah? Yes, the reform of the administration and also the resilience of Nigerians. Because everybody's beginning to see, because if you look at the where the figures are coming from, you see the service sector did so well. Because if the issues we're having with our production capacity in the oil sector is beginning to show people, begin to show gaps where people can actually plug in and begin to engage, and those engagements is what's beginning to reflect. So, like they say, so if when there are opportunities, when things are not working well in known sectors or known areas, so the unknown sectors begin to come. People begin to flow towards those unknown opportunities and the potentials which have been lying fallow as far as the service sector is concerned. Look at the transportation sector. You look at the hospitality sector, the ICT sector. So you see these sectors are now beginning to boom because a lot of people are now, pushing towards, involving themselves in those quick wins that exist in that ecosystem.
Well, most of the policies been pushed by the federal government seems to be a kind of pro-market policy. And we've seen the all-share index cross the 100,000 mark. Does this reflect how much how much investors feel about these policies?
Now, like I said earlier, when you take decisions or when a government, the stability is seen. Now, despite how gloomy it looks, they know investors, especially portfolio investors, know that a market-driven economy would eventually yield the best results. So if you allow the private sector run the economy, which is exactly what the policy of the government is showing. So you see a lot of people will plug into those transactions. They begin to buy because I mean there's going to be an expansion, and everybody wants to be part of that expansion. So this is why the drive towards those investments, the shares growing, people buying into those shares. Because I mean, where else would you want to go to? Because if these established organizations or product, let me use the word product, are already playing in the market, so I rather play amongst the successful transactions, being that the government is supporting and is driving towards the growth of those systems. So that's exactly what you are seeing. So there will be a lot of oversubscribed, shares when people go to the market as we speak today, because a lot of companies are looking at it, especially those in the service sector, like the banks and some of the service providers. They're going to go to the market, and you see a lot of people subscribing or oversubscribing because they see stability, and then they see that there's going to be a lot of expansion in future, and that group they want to be part of it. Nobody wants to be left, especially investors, because they are interested in their profit. And then when that profit is you can see the profit, the best thing is to just jump on the train.
Now, oil production somehow risen to from 1.22 million barrels per day in the second quarter 2023 to 1.55 million barrels per day in the fourth quarter 2023. We all know how important to improve our oil production. But how does this position us to a much better and stronger as well as resilient economy?
Now, you see, when the president started having meetings with service chiefs, he was not just having meetings with them to discuss banditry and to discuss kidnapping. No, he was also discussing, having conversations with them around that corridor. Because, I mean, the oil theft became a big embarrassment for us as a nation. And you see, when those who were supposed to do their job start to do their job, like the Nigerian Navy and the Air Force, those collaboration with the security architecture of our nation begin when they start to do their work. You will see that those miscreants, those who benefit from those things that affect our economy, when you begin to push them out, things begin to work, and our production level will continue to grow. But for me, most interestingly, I think whatever we use to make the oil production to increase, we should also adopt the same process and procedure as regards our solid mineral sector, because solid mineral sector is also suffering, which is also meant to be one of the biggest earners for us when it comes to foreign exchange. So I think the security chiefs should also consider using the same method and methodology to get our solid mineral sector to start working, because we need all the foreign exchange that needs to come into this country, and then whatever tools that they need to be given should be given to them to make sure that we achieve that level of growth, and that growth will continue definitely.
Okay, another good news is that petrol importation is down by like 50% since petrol subsidy removal. How important is this for a country like Nigeria that has to live up to satisfying its own local consumers here before even thinking of exporting and things like that?
Since the clamor for removal of subsidies, from 2012, it has always been an issue of corruption. Now, the petroleum products which that has been imported into Nigeria, the question has been how many cars consume this petroleum product. So it's obvious that these petroleum products were never consumed in Nigeria. Most of them still find their way out of Nigeria. So with the removal of subsidies, so nobody finds it lucrative anymore, because if Nigeria is subsidizing for petroleum products for neighboring countries, it's of no use, it's of no value to the nation. So that is one thing. And then the second thing is, now it begins to give an allowance to us to have access to, the FX that we need, as against just selling our crude oil, get foreign exchange, and then the next thing we're using it to start importing petroleum product that is not being consumed by the domestic market. So I think going forward, there should be an inclusive, assessment on how much a vehicular movement we have in our country, to even be able to ascertain these things are data that can be gotten, how much consumption that we really require as a nation. So for me, it shows that the subsidy regime was bedeviled by a lot of corruption, and then now that the subsidy has been removed, you see those who would normally take advantage of those subsidy to import petroleum products for other countries in the world will not have the ability to do that, because it's not going to be lucrative anymore for them. So it holds good for us as a nation, and going forward, I think progress will come. I know a lot of hardship. Everybody's facing a lot of hardship now, but it's just a matter of time. Everything, the water will find its level, really.
Mr. Ukuku, just a quick one before we call it a day. Takeaways from Qatar is very important. Where should we go from the MOUs, and also what more should be done to make our own business environment more conducive?
It's an ongoing conversation, even from the investment promotion angle of it. Every investor, let me use my famous illustration. Investors are like water; they flow to areas of least resistance. So start to look at how to remove the bureaucratic red tapes that you have everywhere. Now begin to streamline how processes and procedures, begin to streamline your processes and procedures, and then also have this at the back of your mind. Every investor has a conscience and a mind, and they have a way that they reason. The cross-cultural dimension to investment promotion is really key and important. What does that mean? You need to understand how an average billionaire thinks. So if a man who sits on his desk on his desk in Ministry of Trade and Investment understand basically that someone who has over $1 billion has a way that he reasons, so it makes life easier for him to understand how to deal and treat that person. So it goes down also to the subnationals. They need to understand that investors don't have time. Nobody will have $100 million and wait for you till you're able to give him approval for land before he now gets approval for EIA, gets approval for all of that, and all these things are taking long. Nobody has that kind of time. They rather go somewhere else where their monies will fetch them quick money. Yes, Nigeria is a lucrative environment, but one thing will always erode that natural resources that you have, or human resources that you have, which is efficiency in your system. So our project, we have to promote investment with project-driven approach, which is one of the best things that we should do now. Look at Juron Island, what they have now today in Singapore, with no single hydrocarbon, an investment of over $30 billion in the oil sector is there, with over $90 billion turnover. So these are the kind of things, these are the kind of approach we should use, because we really need investors in our economy.
Thank you. Ogbonna Ukuku, it's always a pleasure having you on the program.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.